Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tori Lynn. Let's blossom today. Today I'm using the Tartelette Toasted palette to create this orange, kind of burnt orange, peachy look. I think this is a great look for so many different eye colors, and this palette is just such a gorgeous palette. I feel like it has such a great color scheme, and you could make so many great looks with it. If you guys want to see what colors I used out of this palette, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and then let's just jump into it. So I'm going to be starting this look with my eyes primed and my brows done and concealed, because we're here for this palette. I know this palette isn't new. I know it's been out for a while, but I recently got it. And so I wanted to do an eye look with this palette for you guys. So I have now tried all three of the Tartelette palettes. The Tartelette Volume 1 Original, and then the Tartelette in Bloom, and then the Tartelette Toasted. And each one of them have just been really, really good. Are great quality pigments. They blend out so nicely, and they're each just gorgeous, gorgeous palettes. The other thing I love is they always smell like chocolate to me. Each of the palettes smell like chocolate. I don't know why. But if you haven't tried a Tartelette palette, they are amazing. Honestly, I think that they are probably one of the best starter palettes out there. The Tartelette in Bloom was actually my original starter palette. But any of the three would be really good, of course. You know, it all just depends on your color tones and your color palette, which you like to use. So this one is really warm toned, but it's kind of like peachy warm tones. It's not real dark. The Tartelette in Bloom is warm toned, but there's a lot darker shades in it. And then the original Tartelette palette is cool toned. Today I'm going to be using Toasted, because like I said, this one is new to me. I've messed with it a couple of times since I've owned it, but I haven't done any looks here for my channel. So let's go ahead. Let's just jump into this palette, you guys. Let's start by taking the lightest matte shade in the palette. It is called S'more. It's just a very light, creamy, vanilla-y shade. And we're going to set down that primer or concealer, whatever you have on your lids. Set it down, that way it doesn't crease. Your shadow will blend out a lot easier, and it will just make a nice, smooth, beautiful canvas for our eyeshadow. Now for a crease shade, I'm going to go in with the light kind of taupey brown shade called Latte, right on the bottom row, and I'm going to work that into our crease. This is going to be our crease shade or transition shade. Now I'm going to take this shade called Warmth. It's kind of the brightest orangey peachy shade in the palette. And we're going to work that in our crease as well. We're going to work it all the way across, but not quite into that inner corner. Now I want to start building a little more depth in that outer corner into that crease. So we're going to go into the shade called Cozy. It's this really pretty kind of warm toned brown. And we're going to lay that right in the outer corner and kind of bring it into the crease a little bit. So I'm going to focus it on the outer corner and then kind of windshield wiper your way in a little bit. We're just really focusing on adding some depth. To add just a hair more depth to this look, I want to take the darkest shade in the palette, which is called a Fireside. It's a really dark chocolatey brown. And we're going to stamp that right in that outer corner. I'm not really going to bring it in at all, just going to really stamp it down. Keep it right out there. Now, a trick with building depth, if you have smaller eyes, or not a lot of space between your eye and your brow. So a lot of times I kind of stamp right in that crease, stamp that product down right, literally right in that socket, the space between your eye and the bone. But if your eye is really small and you were worried about, when we blend this out, running out of space, because that is something that could potentially happen, focus it down more onto the actual lid and then kind of just work it between that socket crease and the lid. Kind of work it down in there, right in here. This will give you more room to blend out if you need it. You have smaller eyes. This is also a really good trick if you want to add depth but you don't want to go too dark. If you still want to keep the look pretty light, then adding it down onto that lid instead will keep things a little bit brighter, a little bit lighter. Next, I'm going to take my fluffy blending brush and we're just going to give everything a nice, good blend. The trick with this is just start in the inner corner and then work your way out, because if you start out here and then you work your way in, you're going to drag a lot of that darkness into the inner corner, and we don't want that, because we want the center of the eye in the center of the face to still be bright. This is going to give your eyes more of a upturned, larger look. If we can bring a lot of dark into the center, it's going to make our eyes look close together. It's going to make our eyes look smaller, and I have small eyes, so I want to make everything to seem bigger and more open and brighter, so we want to focus that dark out here. If you start out here and drag it in, it's just going to totally mess things up for you. And I mean, of course, you do want to bring some in a little bit just to blend, but you want to start on that inner corner. Now I want to take this a really pretty shimmery tone here called Flame. And I have found that working with these shadows, they're almost kind of a foil shadowed texture. They work best with your finger. So I'm just going to use my finger and rub it in there, get a nice good layer. And I'm going to work this on the inner part of the lid, all the way from the inner corner to where that dark on the outer lid is. Now I'm going to take this shimmery shade down on the bottom row called Sunset. And we're going to lay that kind of in the center of the eye, kind of right over the iris. This is going to give us a brighter kind of window effect, if you will. It's going to give the appearance of light reflecting off it, making things brighter. Now I want to try the shade up here, also a shimmer shade. It's the lightest shimmer shade in the palette. It's called Candle. I'm going to attempt to use that as my inner corner highlight. Now, like I said, these don't apply super well with a brush, so I'm not sure what kind of pigment we're going to get using this. I don't like using my finger for an inner corner highlight. I feel like my finger is too big and chunky and just kind of gets powder everywhere when I'm trying to get it right in the inner corner. I'm trying to be real precise with it, So that's not my favorite inner corner. It's not super blinding or real bright, but it will do for now. I'm also throwing a little bit of that on the brow bone. As I've talked about before on my channel, I like to take a big, chunky, dense brush and just kind of sweep it over that outer edge between the brow highlight and the shadow. This just really softens the outer edge up. It just gives everything a really nice, smoky look. Now, I don't do it hard. I just do it with a really nice, soft, light, just back and forth swooshing motion, and it just really does. It just softens things up nicely. Recently on my channel, I tested out the Ardell Magnetic Gel Liner and one of their lashes, their magnetic lashes, and I've actually really been liking it. It's kind of fun. It's an easy way, I feel like, to do lashes. They're pretty quick. The liner does take a little bit of getting used to, but today I am going to use this for liner, as well as I'm thinking a wing, so I'm going to be using the NYX Epic Ink liner. And actually, I think what I'm going to start with, because when you use the magnetic liner, you have to put your lashes on while it's still kind of tacky, still kind of wet, before it completely dries down. And because I don't think drawing a wing on with a full set of lashes is going to be that easy, I'm going to start by drawing my wing, and then we'll put the gel liner on and throw some lashes on. Ooh, it's really juicy. I haven't used this liner in a hot minute. I opened it up and it's really juicy. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not going to necessarily focus on drawing a whole liner. I'm just going to draw the wing for the most part. That wing didn't actually turn out too bad. I was thinking when I was getting ready to start that, I was like, should I ask you to pray for me because I haven't done a wing, like I said, in a hot minute. But it actually didn't turn out too bad. So let's hope the other one turns out just as good. That wing didn't turn out quite as good, but I think it's because this is so juicy. It's just like smearing around a little easier than I particularly like. I don't know why it's so juicy because that is not a new liner. I have had it for months and months and months. So yeah, like I said, I don't know why it's so juicy, but it's definitely made it doing a wing a little more difficult. But okay, so now I'm gonna go take the Ardell Magnetic Gel Liner and the shade Black, and I'm just gonna go ahead and draw the rest of my liner on. If you haven't watched that video, I will link it down below where I kind of review this, where I test it out. But it's very sticky, very tacky liner. I'm going to bring my mirror up because it's going to be easier for me to do like that. It's not like a typical gel liner. And you have to move pretty quickly while using it. It dries down pretty fast, which is why I didn't want to wait to do my wing. Figure it would be easiest just to get out of the way. I got one side on, so I'm quickly going to take my lashes. These are the Ardell lashes in the style Wispy. And while that's still tacky, you just kind of stick them on, and you can kind of replace them. They pick up and move around a little easier than like a pair of, typical lashes would with glue. So you get them on in the place you like, you stick them down, and then you press the band, the magnets, into the liner. It's going to kind of seal them down, if you will. And voila, look at those pretty lashes. Okay, I just think they're really simple to use. Like I said, if you wait too long, the lashes won't stick. Or they'll stick for a little bit, and then they just don't stay on, and like halfway through the day your lash is popping off. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly throw on the other side. Alright, so those lashes are on. They're just really pretty. I haven't checked in to see if they sell those lashes in other styles or not, but I like the Wispies. The only other thing I have to tell you about those lashes, or the liner in general, is that the liner comes off really hard. You have to use an oil-based makeup remover, which I don't have, so scrubbing it off is not the easiest thing in the world, but you can get it off without. But I just thought I would mention that little nugget of information. So now I think I'm just going to throw on just a little bit of mascara. This I'm going to be using is the Burt's Bees Nourishing Mascara. This isn't a really great mascara, but because we have lashes on, it really doesn't matter. I just need something to kind of darken up my natural lashes and blend them into the falsies. Now, before we move on from the eyes, there's one last thing I want to do, and that is to take the shade called Warmth. It's that orangey, peachy shade right in the middle of the palette, and I'm going to smoke out my lower lash line with that shade. I really like this eye look. I feel like it makes my eye color look really blue and bright and vibrant. I think it's really pretty, which orange and blue are complementary colors, so I guess that would make sense because these are kind of orangey shades. Now I'm going to go and finish off my face, and I will come back with it all done and kind of show you the rested look that I created. Alright, I'm back with all of my face done, so I'm going to run through what products I used with you, that way you guys know, but I'm not going to obviously go through the whole process of me putting it on because you can see that a million times over and over. So for foundation, I used the e.l.f. Flawless Satin Foundation in the shade Light Ivory. I've actually really been loving this foundation. I tried it a few months back on my channel with a full face of e.l.f. makeup, and I just really like it. And then for concealer, I used the Benefit Boing Cakeless Concealer in the shade number 1. Then to bake my under eye, I used my OG Coty Translucent Airspun Powder. And then to set the rest of my face, I used another e.l.f. product. This is the e.l.f. Sheer Tint Finishing Powder in the shade Fair Light. Then for bronzer, I used the Urban Decay Beached Bronzer in the shade Bronzed. I've also been loving that bronzer. I just feel like it's very strong and pretty and not quite as subtle as a lot of the other ones I use. For highlight, I used the Becca highlight in the shade Prosecco Pop. Now this highlight's like almost gone because she's well loved. But I just thought it would be really pretty with this look because it's got such a nice bronzy undertone to it. Lots of copper tones in it without being too dark, which I feel is hard to find for my skin tone. And then for blush, I use this Morphe 9N palette. This palette is no longer available, but it's a really pretty palette. And I mixed 2 shades here. I mixed the red shade, the most red shade on the upper corner here, with the light peachy shade right in the center. I mixed both those shades together, just kind of dabbled back in between the two. And then last but not least, for a lip combo, I have also been loving the Kylie Jenner lip liner in the shade Kylie. And then for lipstick, I used the Kat Von D liquid lip in the shade Noble. So I really like the combo of these two. The liner gives it just a nice little definition around the edges. But this is a lot brighter and more of a peachy tone than the Kylie lipstick that goes with it. Yeah, this is the finished look. I really like this eye look. I think that this palette is really awesome and that you can create lots of simple, easy looks with it. It's just very gorgeous, very pretty. I like that I can look at this palette and I can see different eye looks created from it. Sometimes I see palettes and I'm like, there's a lot of pretty colors, but I have a hard time picturing different looks to do with them. This one is so easy. I mean, it's just really pretty. Let me know what you guys think about this look down in the comments. Hit the like button and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.